Hello and welcome into another episode of Locked On Wolves. This is the post-game podcast. The Timberwolves defeated the New Orleans Pelicans in the preseason opener. We're going to talk studs and duds, the most exciting things in Monday night's game. Only a couple of slight negatives. It was really a positive night all the way around. We're going to talk all things Wolves Pelicans, Leandro Bolmaro's debut, the Timberwolves' apparent new look, like legitimate defense. All that stuff is coming up on the show today. You are Locked On Wolves.
You are Locked On Timberwolves, your daily Minnesota Timberwolves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Wolves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Ben Beecken. I'm the host of Locked On Wolves. I'm also the editor of Dunking with Wolves, the Timberwolves site on the Fansided Network. Thank you, first of all, for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Remember, Locked On Wolves is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube now, as well as, of course, Apple, Google, Spotify, and the all-new Odyssey app. You can also follow on Twitter at Locked On T-Wolves and at Beecken with two B's, two E's, CKEN. Happy Tuesday, everybody. This is the post-game podcast from the Timberwolves Monday night preseason opening victory over the New Orleans Pelicans. It was an exciting night. The Wolves ended up winning 117-114. Of course, as is always the case with preseason, it wasn't about the final score. This is a game the Wolves led by 20 plus for a good chunk of it. We're basically had double digits for about 2/3 of the game. And it was an all-around impressive win for the Wolves. So I'm going to hit some high points here early, and then I want to hit the biggest takeaways for the game. A little bit of a game flow. It's preseason, so I guess not too much of that. And then studs and duds, which is also a little bit of a tricky exercise for preseason, but we're going to give it a go. The Timberwolves got a warm-up, so we're going to go ahead and give this a warm-up as our first post-game podcast of the season. But it was a fantastic night for the Wolves. So I want to dive right into it. Here off the top. So the Wolves ended up starting close to what I would expect their opening night starting lineup to look like. This was a D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, Josh Kogi at the 3, Jaden McDaniels at the 4, Karl-Anthony Towns at the 5. I think most people have thought Malik Beasley would start at the 2 and that we would see Edwards at the 3. But on this night, and Chris Finch said as much in the media earlier, and I believe yesterday, that on Monday, that the Timberwolves were not going to focus, or we shouldn't focus too heavily on what the starting lineup or even the rotation looks like in this game, as they're still kind of playing around with guys. Obviously, this is the first opportunity these guys have all had to play together. So they went with the starting lineup that we actually saw last year, I think, late in the season, when Jaden McDaniels got back into the rotation, and I guess D'Lo was healthy. Malik Beasley was out at the end of last year, so it was the D'Lo, Edwards, Josh Kogi, McDaniels, Karl-Anthony Towns starting lineup, and Taurean Prince was actually the first guy off the bench for the Wolves. The game started with everyone really being active defensively. The Timberwolves were so good defensively. Believe it or not, my 7-year-old said to me, like 2 minutes into the game, he looks at me and he goes, "Dad, the Timberwolves are doing a lot better on defense than they usually do." Yes, they were. The Pelicans didn't score until almost 3 minutes into the game. It was more the activity than anything else. There were a couple of blocks early. Anthony Edwards had his had a steal and a highlight dunk that no doubt you've already seen over Brandon Ingram in a broken floor situation. But it was a deflection and a steal from Anthony Edwards that got that made that dunk possible. Was him, and it wasn't straight jumping the passing lane. It wasn't really a gamble. He just got his hand up in the passing lane, and that's the sort of awareness that we've been looking for out of Edwards. Instead of just gambling, and being out of position, he was in the right spot and he was rewarded for it. It was a fantastic display of anticipation and also athleticism and all-around skill. The Timberwolves offense was a little bit off kilter early in the game. That's to be expected. I mean, again, preseason, and I'm going to say that probably 10 more times in this podcast. And the Wolves built a little bit of a lead early in the game. Then they got down towards the end of the first quarter. They're actually down 3 at the end of the first, and it was mostly due to rebounding and the rebounding deficiencies that we've seen so often from this Wolves team over the past few years reared its ugly head late in the first quarter. That was after Towns came off the floor. Naz Reid was at the 5. I think for a stretch there, Vando was at the 4, Jared Vanderbilt. And McDaniels was for the first for the first part of that with Nas at the 5, and then Vando came into the game, and then slowly the Wolves got a little bit more of an energetic lineup on the floor. Once Vanderbilt got into the game, things were stabilized just a bit, and the Wolves, it was a couple possessions. I think they were down as many as 6 or 7, maybe it was 5 or 6 late in the first quarter. They got it to within 3 at the end of the quarter, and then the start of the second quarter was the kind of lineup that I was looking forward to seeing, and that was D'Angelo Russell on the floor with Karl-Anthony Towns and Jared Vanderbilt at the 4. So Vando and Cat together for the first time, and it was amazing. The start of the second quarter was the Wolves' best stretch of the game with a lineup that they're actually going to use this year. There was, after the Wolves got out to, it was I think a 10, 12 point lead, and Josh Hart need Karl-Anthony Towns with not once, but with both of his knees, once in the stomach and once it appeared to be below the belt. Not intentional, but leading with his knees as he was rising to the basket, Hart was, and he was called for an offensive foul, but Towns got a couple of knees. Patrick Beverley got a technical foul, as did Hart. Beverley, of course, standing up for Towns. You heard somebody yell on the Bally Sports North broadcast, "It's preseason, man." I think that was probably Beverley. It was the kind of moment where obviously your heart's in your throat a little bit for Towns, but he stood in there. He tried to play defense and block the shot. He did get the foul call on Hart, and Beverley stood up for his teammate. And that's what Patrick Beverley's been doing his entire career. It's one of the things he's going to bring to this Timberwolves team is he's not going to back down. And at times Beverley has been the one being accused of being a dirty player. Obviously hoping he doesn't cross the line in a Timberwolves uniform, but if he's going to stick up for teammates and play with an edge that the Wolves have really never had outside of what Jimmy Butler did in that category, and, at times Jeff Teague, but not really, there's been JJ Barea, I guess, would be the best example. If Pat Bev can do that, he's going to be a huge factor, a huge impact on this team. And you saw him up off the bench early in the game, cheering on the starters before he got into the game. Applauding Josh Okogie's perimeter defense, egging on D'Angelo Russell to continue playing defense, continue his intensity on the ball. And that's the sort of thing that Pat Bev is going to bring to this team. We even saw D'Angelo Russell in the second quarter. He had active hands. He had a deflection it was a ball that was going out of bounds, came back in bounds. Russell deflected it. It bounced off the Pelicans player's legs to Jordan McLaughlin. He got an assist, throwing the ball back down to Russell for an easy layup in the open floor. D'Lo got himself a bucket by having active hands defensively, and that's the sort of thing D'Lo needs to bring to the table. And it was a good opportunity for him to see, like, hey, I can get an easy bucket if I have active hands. Hopefully that's the correlation he made after that play, because it was phenomenal. Okay, I want to finish going through the game flow and then hit my key takeaways real quickly here in a second, because I thought that the end of the first half into the third quarter was great. Fourth quarter was a little bit wonky because the Wolves basically played a summer league lineup and the Pelicans came all the way back and only lost by a possession. However, Leandro Bolmaro's debut took place in the fourth quarter as well. So I want to talk about all that here, what my thoughts were on his debut. First, though, let's talk about DirecTV Stream. Does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows. You're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friend's login for the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all that entertainment you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there's no annual contract. Get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package. Let's also talk about our friends over at Shopify. It's the sound of another sale on Shopify, the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your business. Shopify gives entrepreneurs the resources once reserved for big business, so upstarts, startups, and established businesses alike can sell everywhere, synchronize online and in-person sales, and effortlessly stay informed. Scaling your business is a journey of endless possibility. Believe me, this podcast started out selling whatever it was we were selling a long time ago, and today we're selling all this outstanding stuff that we have here on Locked On, right? I mean, everything we talk about here, including Shopify, and we're not stopping there, because success is a million milestones on a forever evolving path. Like mine, Shopify powers over 1.7 million businesses from first sale to full scale. Reach customers online and across social networks from an ever-growing suite of channel integrations and apps, including Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, and more. Gain insights as you grow with detailed reporting of conversion rates, profit margins, and beyond. More than a store, Shopify grows with you. This is a possibility powered by Shopify. Go to shopify.com/LockedOnNBA, all lowercase, for a free 14-day trial and get full access to Shopify's entire suite of features. Grow your business with Shopify today. Go to shopify.com/LockedOnNBA right now. That's shopify.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, let's go ahead and continue with the game flow here. Late in the first half, there was a flurry. I mean, it was Karl-Anthony Towns had a monster dunk over Jackson Hayes. By the way, Hayes later in the game rolled his ankle. It looked like a pretty bad sprain potentially. So obviously, hopefully that's not serious for Hayes and the Pelicans. Anthony Edwards got another steal and a dunk in transition. He got the steal, passed it ahead to Towns. Towns passed it for the assist to Edwards for the dunk. Patrick Beverley, Josh Okogie's defense again, late second quarter was just phenomenal. Just all up in the Pelicans on the perimeter, making life miserable for the Pelicans perimeter players. And the Wolves won the second quarter by a 40-17 margin. It was phenomenal. Early in the third, Cat didn't play at all in the second half. Otherwise, it was the starters plus Naz Reid. The first few minutes of the third quarter were a little bit rough. And, Naz had some great offense. The defense overall wasn't outstanding. But then Beverley and Vanderbilt came in off the bench again. They sparked everything. The Wolves went on a long run. Taurean Prince scored 9 straight points, had a couple of really impressive threes, some good ball movement. Malik Beasley generally had a quiet night, but he had a nice pass in there to Taurean Prince for a corner three in the left corner. And the Wolves took this lead to the fourth quarter. I mean, they were in great shape. They started to kind of filter out actual rotation players. Jake Layman came in late in the third quarter. The start of the fourth, we saw, Nathan Knight came in the game shortly after the start of the fourth. Eventually, we saw Brian Bowen come into the game. McKinley Wright got into the game at the very end. Isaiah Miller did. Bolmaro came into the game early in the fourth and was quiet for the first couple of minutes as he got into the flow of the game. He missed a three. And then there was this just an insane pass on a pick and roll where Nathan Knight set the pick, two-way player Nathan Knight. He rolls to the basket and Bolmaro, just a perfect bounce pass between defenders to a streaky Knight for a dunk. And Knight literally, after he dunked it, did this. Like it was just kind of a eureka type pass. It was almost like a light bulb moment was Knight's reaction. And the bench went nuts after the Bolmaro pass. He missed a couple of mid-range jumpers. He just looked a little hesitant to get all the way to the rim, but he showed off the handle, did can one jumper. I think it was around the free throw line, almost hit a step back three late in the game, and appeared completely content with trying to take over the game late when it was a 1-2 possession game. And he was on the floor with, it was all G League guys, right? Or Summer League guys, really. It was McKinley Wright. It was Isaiah Miller. It was Brian Bowen and Nathan Knight. And Bolmaro was like, hey, I'll take this thing over, which is great to see. And you would expect that from a 21-year-old who played pro basketball last year and, in the second best league in the world and a first round pick. But he was totally fine with doing that. It wasn't ultra successful, but he showed a lot in those 9 minutes that he played, and ended up pulling that. What did he have? He had 2 points. I guess he only had 2 points, a rebound, and an assist, but the assist was fantastic. The rebound was timely. And the 2 points came in 1 of 4 shooting. Again, he missed 2 threes, but fun to watch Bolmaro. And the size too, we knew he was big, but to see him on the court, he's a big guy. And the idea of him playing some point forward, being kind of a secondary playmaker for this team down the road. Again, I said in the show on Monday, in terms of the Wolves rotation, he's not a rotation player at the start of the year. Clearly, he didn't play till the fourth quarter in the first preseason game. He's probably number 10 or 11 on the depth chart, which, by the way, I should say, I'll call myself out. I completely blanked on Monday's show. I didn't talk about Taurean Prince as a rotation player. And that bumps Bolmaro to 10th or 11th on the list in the rotation, honestly. And Jalen Noel is completely out of the rotation too. This will be one of my takeaways I want to talk more about in a second. The depth of this team is insane. And this game is just another example of that. So we're going to talk about that here in a second. The way the game finished up, again, preseason, so I don't want to go like possession by possession or anything, but the Wolves did hold on to the lead. It finished on a McKinley Wright, a fantastic block on a shot attempt, a three-pointer from the Pelicans, where he rose up, blocked the shot, and sent everybody home happy. Even though the Wolves led by 20 plus and should have won by more, the lineup that they had out there versus who the Pelicans had at the end of the game, and obviously the Pelicans had out, a number of end of the bench guys too. But the way that the game ended was just really nice to see it end on a defensive stand. The Wolves, for the most part, made their free throws down the stretch, although Wright missed one that made that possible. That block was huge, really at the buzzer to win the game. Okay, so let's go right into key takeaways. Number one, this is obvious, defensive intensity from everyone, really, especially the backcourt of Beverley and Kogi when they got to play minutes together was outstanding. D'Lo was active. He had his D'Lo struggles, but he was far more active than we've seen him. He did have that one deflection that led to a steal and eventually a breakaway, a bucket for him in the open floor. And he had a couple of other nice defensive plays as well. I was really impressed with D'Lo's intensity. Edwards was solid defensively as well. Jaden McDaniels did his thing, but Kogi and Beverly were the biggest ones. Towns early in the game especially had a couple of big blocks. On the night, the Wolves did end up with 10 blocks, and the Pelicans only had 7. So it was a little bit of a block party for the Wolves, and they weren't getting themselves out of position by doing it. It was really impressive all the way around. The second thing for me in terms of positive takeaways was Josh Okogie. This is I'll combine these. Josh Okogie was impressive. It's one game. Obviously, he's had single great games before. One really impressive game from Josh Okogie, ultra active defensively, which we've seen from him. But last year, I felt like he slipped some at times, and part of that's due to he didn't have a whole lot of help around him. But he did tonight. Other guys were competing defensively, and Okogie was really good on the defensive end of the floor, and he was good enough on offense. I mean, if Okogie can be a C+ on offense, then he becomes a rotation player. I talked on Monday about I wasn't sure if he would be a rotation player for this team, and that was simply due to improved depth. But he had 9 points on 5 shots, 2 of 3, made 2 of his 3 corner 3-point attempts, 2 steals, 2 blocks for him in 19 minutes. So a good game from Okogie. And then the second part of that is Jared Vanderbilt's impact. I've talked a lot on this podcast about Jared Vanderbilt for the last year and a half and the impact I thought he could have as almost a perfect fit next to Towns. If he can add that 3-point shot that he's apparently been working on, then he's a perfect fit next to Towns. But the intensity, the rebounding, the length, the physicality that he plays with is fantastic. The Vanderbilt impact, and I have not looked at his plus minus for the game, but I can pull it up now, and I promise you that it's impressive. Okay, it's only +3. It's not as impressive as I thought it would be, but it's still a +3. And he had 7 rebounds in 17 minutes. Only attempted 2 shots, 1 of 2 shooting. He missed his only 3-point attempt. I believe that was from the corner as well. But Vando is the impact he has on the game is so impressive. We talked about 3-man lineups in a show last week. I think it was Thursday's show. And he was in most of the Wolves' top lineups, 3 of their top 4 lineups, 5 of their top 6 lineups last year in terms of net rating for 3-man lineups that actually played 50 minutes or more. And the number, the number 4 lineup last year for the Timberwolves, a +16 net rating in 105 minutes was Russell, Towns, and Vanderbilt. That's the trio that more or less led the Wolves to build that double-digit lead in the second quarter. And a lot of that was due to Jared Vanderbilt. His impact was outstanding. And then the rotation just being so dynamic. I mean, this team legit goes 10, 11, maybe even 12 NBA caliber players deep. I talked at length about that on Monday, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse there, but that's going to keep coming up. I think that's a really underrated thing. Casual fans that aren't, general NBA fans, the national folks, don't realize how deep this roster is. And now I'm not saying they can weather the storm of massive injuries like they have like they've suffered in recent years, and knock on wood, that won't happen. But they can withstand the ups and downs of a regular NBA season, the wear and tear of an NBA season, provided they get average injury luck. This is a truly deep roster. It really is. I think that's really going to matter. The only negatives really are related to rebounding. They were a -4 on the glass for this game. Edwards and Beasley didn't shoot the ball great from the perimeter. Edwards was 4 of 10 shooting, missed all 3 3-point attempts. Beasley came off the bench and only played, I guess he ended up with 19 minutes, 0 of 4 outside the arc. But Beasley played well overall. He had a couple nice passes, scored in the paint, had a couple nice cuts as well. And Edwards overall played well too. 10 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks in 22 minutes. He been talking about him leading the team in minutes. He led the team in minutes in the preseason opener with 22. So really the only negatives are on the glass and a little bit of the outside shooting. As a team, they were 14 of 43, which is 32.6%. But all the way around, a really impressive performance. I do want to hit individual studs and duds quickly here at the end of the show. Before we get to that, though, let's talk about betonline.ag. We're back to football season, and better than ever, all eyes are on the gridiron as teams are back on for another football season. As always, BetOnline is your #1 spot for all the pro and college football action this season. With the new updated site and interface, even more odds, props, and contests, BetOnline continues to be the #1 source for everything football. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Don't forget to use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From football, basketball, boxing, right on down to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage Of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season, BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. It's 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Okay. Let's talk studs and duds from this game. It's a little tricky because nobody played more than 22 minutes. A bunch of guys played between 10 and 20 minutes. But I'm just going to talk generally about who played the best. I barely talked about D'Angelo Russell outside of a little bit of his defense. He got really hot in that second quarter as part of that, Towns, D'Lo, Vando surge. He had 19 points in only 16 minutes, and I think they all came in the first half. 19 points, 5 assists, 3 rebounds for D'Lo, 6 of 10 shooting, 3 of 6 outside the arc, perfect 4 of 4 at the line, and just 2 turnovers. He was a plus 18. So he gets a stud for this game. He was phenomenal, piping hot from outside the arc, a couple of those heat check shots that he likes to hoist up. But I mean, he makes those 30 footers as good as almost anybody, this side of obviously Trae Young and Steph Curry, but so good from outside the arc, and a really fantastic game. He had a couple of really impressive passes too, competed defensively. If this, and yes, this was 16 minutes in a preseason game, but if this is the version of D'Lo that the Wolves get this year, this is the version of D'Lo that earned a max contract 2 years ago with the Brooklyn Nets, and or I guess off of the season 3 years ago, and helped lead them to the playoffs 3 seasons ago now. Karl-Anthony Towns is another stud in this game. 15 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and a block in 14 minutes. 6 of 9 shooting, was a team high plus 20, was 2 of 4 outside the arc, 1 of 2 at the line. Only had 1 turnover and 2 fouls in 14 minutes. Was really, really good. D'Lo and Cat were exactly as advertised. They combined for what is it? I guess now I'm doing this math really quickly. They combined for 34 points and 10 rebounds, 9 assists in a combined 30 minutes. Fantastic game from the Timberwolves' 2 best players. Anthony Edwards doesn't fit into either category. He was impressive defensively and active, but the shooting wasn't outstanding. One more stud I'll pick for this game. And it's going to have to be Taurean Prince, because he got super hot in the third quarter. 12 points, 4 of 6 shooting, 4 of 5 outside the arc, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal. Was really good defensively too. I was on record after they acquired him. I think in a vacuum, Ricky Rubio is probably a better player, but Prince is a better fit for this roster because the Wolves followed that up by acquiring Patrick Beverley. I think Beverley's better than Rubio. I think Prince fits this roster well with what he can do, and he showed that in this game. He's not going to shoot 80% on threes for the season like he did in this game, but he was also active defensively, was in the right place at the right time on both ends of the floor, and that's important. Honorable mention, shout out to Malik Beasley, because he was 0 of 4 outside the arc, but take out those shots, he was 3 of 4 inside the arc. He had 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal in 19 minutes, came off the bench and played hard. This was a good game for a guy who no doubt wants to be a starter. Everybody does, and may still end up being a starter. But his first game action in a while, obviously he had his off the court issues, was in jail for a while this offseason, and finished the year last year with the suspension and then the hamstring injury. And so this was a good bounce back for him. And I thought he played well overall, despite the shooting woes. Dud in this game, Jaden McDaniels, he was fine defensively, but he did have 6 personal fouls in 13 minutes. A couple, of course, were of the ticky-tack variety, but he went scoreless, 0 of 1 shooting, 3 rebounds, a steal, 2 turnovers, and 6 fouls, fouled out in just 13 minutes for Jaden McDaniels. It's one preseason game. Not a big deal at all, obviously. But he does get the lone dud from this game. Okay. Next up, the Wolves don't play again until Friday. They have another preseason game Friday night. That one's also on Bally Sports North. There's not much else to say about this one other than all the way around, presuming they come out of this game healthy. Towns played after he got the knee. Everybody else on the Wolves, of course, Jackson Hayes, we hope for the best for him and the Pelicans. But the Wolves looked to be healthy. They played well overall. The starters in the second unit were all fantastic. It was really just the third unit that struggled some in the fourth. And they ended up getting the defensive stop to seal the game. This was a fantastic all-around performance from the Wolves, and exactly what we'd want to see out of the preseason opener. There's really nothing else we could hope for. And all positive vibes coming out of this game. And with the obvious caveats of it being the first preseason game. And we've seen this before. The Wolves started 2-0 last year. They started 6-3 or something 2 years ago. So this is still preseason, and I get that, but it would be hard to draw it up any better. I mean, were they supposed to play? I mean, what's the alternative, right? There's no other better case scenario. As long as we're measured and tempered in the reaction to this, this was a great all around performance from the Wolves, and it's exactly what we could have hoped for. All right. That's all we have for you today here on the show. Of course, we'll be back on Wednesday. I still want to hit some overall preseason, what to watch for in the final 3 games now that we've kind of seen how the Wolves are going to play this thing, presumably after game 1. So we'll do that here this week as well. But again, thank you for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every day. Remember, Locked On Wolves is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, at the Locked On Wolves channel on YouTube, and of course, also on Apple, Google, Spotify, and the all-new Odyssey app. You can also follow on Twitter at Locked On T-Wolves and at Beecken with 2 B's, 2 E's, CKEN. We're going to do post-game pods all season, including on weekends. For the majority of games, we'll have post-game pods as well. We're doing Locked On Now, 60-second videos for social media as well. And of course, on YouTube, everything's on YouTube now. So be sure that you're following and subscribed and you're buckling up. We're going to get into live tweeting too as we get into the season. So it's all going to be here. Make sure you're subscribed and following wherever you like to listen or view your podcasts. And that's all we have for you today. Be sure that you're following, and we'll catch you again tomorrow. Once again, I'm Ben Beecken. This is the Locked On Wolves podcast, and we'll catch you next time.